let me introduce our deans. We are really privileged tonight to have three terrific leaders of the business school market and industry and profession. To my immediate left is Bob Damon, who just opened up a brand new $201 million building at Carnegie Mellon University, the Tepper Quad. Bob is the dean of the Tepper School of Business. Congratulations on that new beautiful building.
Thank you.
And then next to him, we have Bill Boulding, who is the dean of the Fuqua School of Business at Duke University, who also recently opened a building as well. and Bill is also the incoming chair of GMAC, that would be the Graduate Management Admission Council, who has become very outspoken on the issue of visas and international students, and we'll get into that in a little while. And then we have our newcomer, Martin Kramers, who is the interim dean of Notre Dame University's Mendoza College of Business. Welcome. So, 10 years ago, we saw the demise of a great investment bank called Lehman Brothers in the onset of the global recession. Some people actually had the nerve to blame MBAs for what happened. Were MBAs really responsible? Bill, what do you think?
Yeah. Having been a part of a number of events with the New York Federal Reserve Bank, certainly that case has been made to me by the president of the New York Federal Reserve, who felt like there was a problem with culture on Wall Street. And while I don't think that we pulled the trigger on all of the things that happened, I think that it is fair to say there's some degree of accountability. Kind of the line that was given to me is when we look around at the people who are in these decisions of power and influence, hey, they all had MBAs. And so we have to look ourselves in the mirror and say, were we preparing people for the kinds of leadership that the world really demands and needs today?
Now, Bob, you teach rocket science at your school, meaning Wall Street rocket science. What's your take on that?
Well, I agree with Bill. I think there was ethical lapses that took place among many on Wall Street, but not just on Wall Street, across the spectrum. And when you look back, there were the incentives that were put in place for many individuals, starting from the loan originators to the investment bankers, to those that were the rocket scientists, as you say, that were splitting up the mortgages into all these various different derivatives and synthetic derivatives and so on and so forth. And to what end, one could ask? I think there were lapses in ethics from all along the spectrum. And this is why I think it's extremely important that MBAs really get exposed during their programs to ethics and to really understand that they have responsibilities that go way beyond themselves. They're going to be put in positions of leadership, and that they have responsibility so that when they make decisions and their behavior influences and affects not only their own reputations, but it affects the reputations and the livelihoods of many people. And so it's extremely important that MBA programs spend a significant amount of time emphasizing the role that leadership plays and the role that ethics plays in being a good leader. So I think there were lapses, but it's not just the MBAs. I think it spans the spectrum.
Sure. And Martin, Mendoza has long been known as a school that has a heavy dose of ethics and values that are taught in the MBA program. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, yes, thank you. I think the global financial crisis was a bit of a wake-up call for us academics and particularly for MBA programs. We like to emphasize the notion of a shared purpose in business, to contribute to human flourishing in a way that everyone benefits from, and that particular leaders have a particular social responsibility to do that. And that also means that our students have a recognition not just of a shared purpose, but also of the importance of sharing priorities. So if you see where the needs are greatest, or you see that someone else has certain priorities, that as leaders they need to be willing to make those the other priorities to make those their own.
Right.
Now, why would you share priorities with someone else unless you recognize there's a shared purpose?
That's right.
And then finally, from purpose to priorities to actual practice, you need to do it together. And those notion that you need to do it together, you need to share priorities because you start with a sense of shared purpose. I would like to think that all MBA programs need to think harder about that after the financial crisis.
Now, as a result of what happened 10 years ago, there's been a major shift in the MBA market. Finance as a discipline and an industry seems to take fewer MBAs, even at the more traditional so-called finance schools. And technology has really come on strong and now is a major recruiter of MBAs. And in fact, Amazon is one of the #1 recruiters of MBAs. And for those of you who may not know, Amazon now recruits 1,000 MBAs a year. Do you think finance will ever come back to where it was, Bob? Or do you think that's a permanent situation?
That's difficult to say, but you're absolutely right. Before the financial crisis, probably 40% of our graduating MBAs went into finance, whether it be investment banking, Wall Street, trading, or corporate finance. So about 40%. Now, today, it's probably closer to 20% or maybe even slightly less than that. Technology for us, the tech industry, is the biggest industry that recruits our MBAs. Last year, 44% of our graduating MBAs went into the tech industry. 58% of graduating women MBAs from the Tepper School went into tech last year. Amazon is a big recruiter. They're the #1 recruiter at the Tepper School. They take something like 10% of our graduating class. And I think they're #1 at many schools.
Yes.
So when you say, will finance come back? That's really hard to predict. What we've seen, especially on Wall Street, is a shift that those positions where they used to hire MBAs for those positions, they're now going to undergraduates. So where the MBAs may have suffered a bit in terms of opportunity on Wall Street, we're seeing our undergraduate students getting more opportunity now.
And it's sort of a two-way street, right? Finance seems to have cooled on its need to hire a lot of MBAs, but MBAs have cooled on finance.
So if you talk to the Wall Street firms, they're certainly concerned that they're losing talent to the West Coast firms, and for our students, the tech is the biggest destination. The West Coast is the biggest destination in terms of employment post-graduation.
We should mention that one of your alums happens to be the chairman and CEO of a company that is now valued at $1 trillion.
Yeah, just a small thing, and I did teach Tim everything he knows.
Have you visited him, Bill, multiple times?
So actually, Tim is a former student of mine, but the unfortunate part of that story is, what is Tim Cook really known for? His expertise is in operations and logistics. What did I teach him? Marketing. It's like, give the guy some love, right? I mean, he's a marketing genius.
Yes.
But to be serious, I don't think that finance will go away as a destination for MBAs. It's going to change in different ways, but the reality is that money will always be at the backbone of the global economy. And so you're going to have people who figure out how to get money in the hands of the right people at the right time and steward those resources effectively. But it's going to splinter away from the big bulge bracket banks into new things that merge with the interest in technology, the interest in finance, because fintech is exploding.
Yeah.
Right.
And so I think you'll see that kind of combination be the job destination of the future for the financially inclined students.
I think another industry that you're going to see really hire a lot of MBAs in the future will be healthcare. It's such a massive part of our economy, and there are so many disruptive startups in that field right now that it's becoming much more attractive to an MBA. Martin, what do you think?
So I'm a professor of finance, so I'm perhaps a bit partial to finance. At the same time,
And we love finance, and I think finance has gotten a sort of a bad hand, really.
some of it deserved. So I'm very new, right? I only became interim dean in July. But what has struck me in the conversations I've had with prominent alumni and business leaders who have visited campus, and I had the privilege to talk to, is that they seem to emphasize a more integrated approach. They want to hire students who can work well in interdisciplinary teams. So our MBAs, they would like them to work with their engineers, with their data scientists, with people who come from very strong particular disciplines. And basically everyone has been talking about that we need to cooperate better, we need to have an MBA curriculum that is more integrated and better prepares your students to do a lot of translating, but also leading interdisciplinary teams.
Well, and that leads me into, what do you really learn in an MBA program today? We know you learn accounting, finance, marketing, strategy, operations, but what do you, beyond the disciplined subjects, what do you really learn? What do you get out of it? Why does it have any value?
Well, there's a lot. I think there's a lot of things you learn. I think the most important things at a high level is you learn to be a problem solver. You get the skill sets you need to really take complex business situations and have the ability to analyze those and be a problem solver. And at the Tepper School, we hope that we also teach our students to be analytical thinkers, the ability to take information and data and use that to make better decisions. So no longer is it about a gut feel about a business situation. It's about actually taking the information you have, distilling from the data what the valuable information is and making decisions from it. So it's being a problem solver, it's being an analytical thinker, and it's leadership. It's the ability to motivate and lead teams of individuals and get them to do what you'd like them to do in a team environment. The MBA it's a degree that is valuable because there was always a demand for people that have strong business skills, management skills, and problem-solving skills, and that's what you get in an MBA.
Yeah. So the thing is, John, that all those things you talked about, they're just table stakes. And you can't get rid of them, by the way. So it's not like you can strip out an MBA program and do no accounting, no finance, and so on. I'm sorry, you just can't run a company if you don't have those basic capabilities. But if you ask the question, what is the biggest lever that we have in terms of being able to create value and change lives, it's through leadership capability. And it's the ability to bring out the best from the people around you and to get them to work with common purpose to accomplish something great. The challenge is that leadership capability doesn't happen in a vacuum, it happens in the context of the day. And so what's happening is that every year we see more and more challenges in terms of the things you have to understand in terms of context. So the example of health. You can't think about running a great health program just in a business school. You better be connected to your school of medicine and your school of public policy and your school of engineering and so on and so forth, as I would say we are, by the way. And so you have to have another layer of that kind of context, but you have to have the context of what are the technological shifts that are happening. And so you have to be informed by what's happening with artificial intelligence and machine learning and big data such that you can make sense of this kind of environment. So the bottom line is a great MBA experience is one that thinks through what is relevant to the world we live in today. What are the things that really are value adding in terms of the challenges that we face, and are you changing the curriculum, are you changing the experiences in a way that you prepare people to embrace those challenges and make a real difference in the lives of others?
In fact, I think one of the most underappreciated aspects of an MBA experience is the personal development that occurs. I mean, in the last 10 years, schools have funneled a lot of money into coaching, mentorships, assessments, working on the gaps that make a person less effective in the world of work. And that transformation is just as meaningful as well. Martin?
That's exactly what I was also going to say, is that an MBA is all that, but it's primarily, I think, about the formation of the person. It's a 2-year investment in yourself, but also in what you can contribute to the world. And so the personal development that happens, intellectually, analytically, but also socially, interpersonally, in very diverse teams, and even spiritually, that what gives meaning in life, how you find meaning, how you contribute to others, how you serve others. To take time for reflection, to step back to some extent, and also to really engage, also very hands-on, in different experiences that are unlike what you've done before.
Yeah.
And so it's a period of stretching, it's a period of being challenged, it's a period where you are in an environment where it's much easier than perhaps previously and afterwards to be wrong, to learn, to think out loud, to correct oneself and others. And so that is a sort of pressure cooker to accelerate your career and to accelerate the formation of who you are as a person.
And let me follow up on it. And that's extremely important. And what I observe, and I'm sure you guys do as well, is that the main focus of most MBAs when they come into an MBA program is my internship and my job. You know, that's front and center. And that's important, but it's also, and maybe more importantly for the long run, your long run career, is developing yourself to be that leader that's going to have the influence on others and be able, as Bill mentioned, coalesce people around a common vision and a common goal. That development is extremely important to every MBA. So it's not about just the short-term job. That's important, of course, but don't lose sight of the fact that you're there to develop yourself for a 40-year career. So that's the main purpose of the MBA.
So I'm going to say something that may be a little controversial relative to what the smarter people here have already said, which is absolutely your MBA experience should be transformational. It should change your life. At the same time, it's not that everybody has the capability to develop into the kind of leader that we need today. And so when we're looking at people at Duke, we're thinking we need to have a certain kind of talent walking in the door that's going to be receptive to the transformational experience that we can offer. And to give you a quick version of what that means is we're looking for people who have IQ, and the reality is that if you're going to lead people, you can't be stupid. And I'm sorry, but I told our incoming class, you can't be stupid, and they all wrote it down. So
Okay, so dumb people cannot apply.
yeah.
Okay.
So, but you also need to have EQ. You need to have the emotional intelligence. You have to be able, all this conversation about working with others, bringing people together. How are you going to work with people if you cannot understand their emotions, if you can't regulate your own emotions, if you can't come into contact with others in terms of sensing who they are and what they care about? But even that is not enough. What you need is DQ. And when I talk about DQ in this country, people immediately are thinking about Dairy Queen, I know. but DQ is decency quotient. And to be the kind of leader that the world needs today, to avoid the issues where we started this conversation, you have to be someone who actually cares about others, who really wants to make a difference in the lives of others in a positive way. Because if you think about a lot of the ways that people have gotten themselves in trouble around illegal, immoral, and unethical behavior, the root of that is typically selfishness. And you have to have people who are decent enough to understand that their role as a leader is to serve others rather than to extract from others. And so you need the right stuff coming in the door.
Why does the degree cost so much? How come it's, there are plenty of people in this audience, I'm sure, that have experienced sticker shock in looking at the prices for an MBA. Why does an MBA cost so much?
Yeah.
Bob?
Well, if you look at the return, I mean, I look at things not as in terms of what they cost, but I look at things in terms of what am I getting for what I'm spending. At the Tepper School, our last year's graduating class probably started with $125,000 starting salary. With that's not including a bonus. They probably left jobs that maybe on average were paying $60,000, something like that. So they're doubling their incomes. So it's a payback period of maybe it's slightly less than 4 years once you take into account scholarship as well. So don't look at the sticker price. When you go in to buy a car, you don't pay the sticker price, you pay something less than that. So it's about a 4-year payback. But for me, actually, the real value is not just that short-term financial gain. It's really you're changing your career trajectory. You're going places with an MBA that you could never go without the MBA. So for me, it's the long-run impact that the MBA is going to have on your career. Financially, it's going to work out fine. For graduates with MBAs, it works out just fine financially. But I think the important thing is that you're going to have a difference in your career trajectory. You're going to be put in leadership positions. You're going to have the ability to affect not only your life, but the lives of others, as Bill said. So I think that's the real payback.
Right.
Yeah. So as you hear all the things we've said, of course, that what's the saying that it's priceless, right? But it is true that an MBA is expensive. It's also true, as Bob says, that the market still really values MBAs at the premium end, and they're being rewarded in terms of both salaries and career opportunities in a significant way. Having said that, I think all of us are very sensitive to the idea that there cannot be, we can't be the only industry in the world that has a bubble that goes on forever. And so we're all very sensitive to the cost. If you look at the actual price paid, I think you would find that the amount is going down over time because the amount of scholarship support has been increasing much faster than the rate of tuition increases. And so effectively, the true price is going down. Having said that, one other thing I want to add is that not every one of our graduates is going to go into a field which is highly rewarding from a financial point of view. We want people who can follow their passion, and you can make a difference in the world and make very little money. And so not only is there increasing amounts of scholarship money, but in our case, we have what I call reverse scholarship money, which is for people who choose to go down a path working for a nonprofit or for social impact, that we can then fund their loan payments through this scholarship fund after graduation. So it doesn't limit their career choices to say, I can only do something that will allow me to pay off my debt.
Which leads me to another point, which I think that the MBA has now become more of an all-purpose degree. The career choices that people are making with the degree are broad and deep and wide, more so than any time before, and your mention of a good number of people who go into the nonprofit sector, NGOs, even the government, is pretty significant now. Martin, you see that at Notre Dame?
Yeah, our students go to a very wide variety, although I've been in this role too short to have a long perspective. I think that the increasing costs are a challenge, and it gives us deans a responsibility to make sure that our program is accessible to a very wide group of people. The one great way to do that is to have good fellowships, and then have a certain virtuous cycle where alumni can give back afterwards, and then allow us to give more fellowships.
I don't think there's been a fundraising campaign in the last 10 years by a dean that hasn't included a significant portion of fundraising for scholarship money, actually.
Yeah, it's usually a major initiative of almost every capital campaign that universities in general run. In addition to support for faculty, it's making sure that the university and the business school can attract the very best and brightest is really critical, obviously, and scholarships play a huge role in that.
A lot of people get the MBA to transition from one career to another, meaning they change disciplines, industry, even geography. Some do the so-called triple jump and do all three at one time. Why is this degree so effective in allowing a person to reinvent themselves professionally?
I think it's because the skills are so deployable across a wide variety of settings. In other words, if you start with this premise of the highest value added is your ability to bring out the best from others to work toward a common purpose, what organization in the world doesn't want that kind of talent? What organization in the world doesn't have to think about how do we make the best use of our resources to have the highest degree of impact? And so it's not, increasingly you're seeing people who said, oh, I thought I'd go to a public policy school, but I realized that MBA skills are really going to help me get to where I want to go. And people who are deeply interested in health. So instead of going into a healthcare program of some kind, they get an MBA and say, we want to be able to really fundamentally transform this industry sector. And so it gives you the capabilities to operate effectively in just about any place, but it also gives you the skills to be constantly thinking about how can you change what you're doing in this place such that we can drive the innovation and create the value that we need going forward.
Bob, you want
Yeah,
to
the only thing I would add is that and I think a large percentage of our MBAs are in fact career switchers, moving from one sort of career path to a completely different one. Getting an MBA is one of the only ways and probably the most effective way to make that switch. I mean, it's very difficult if you're an engineer or a computer scientist or an artist to say, I now want to move into business and become a leader of business. The MBA prepares you for that. And as Bill was saying, there is never a shortage of demand for people that have strong problem-solving skills and leadership skills. That's what the MBA gives you, and it crosses all kinds of different, it's not just the business world, but it's the nonprofits, it's the NGOs. These are skills that will serve you well regardless of what you end up doing, including, by the way, and we haven't talked about this, entrepreneurship. Sometimes there's questions about, can you really teach someone to be an entrepreneur? Well, I don't think I can teach somebody to be an entrepreneur, but I certainly can give them the skill sets they will need to be successful as an entrepreneur. Whether they have the creativity and the innovation to be an entrepreneur is another question, but certainly the business skills that they learn inside of an MBA program are exactly the skills they need to be successful entrepreneurs. So that degree is for me, one of the only ways to be effective in terms of switching careers, and it gives you the set of skills that will allow you to be successful in many different arenas.
Now, we've heard a bunch of entrepreneurs, however, say, don't go get an MBA. Use the money you'd pay a school as your seed capital to start your business, and you'd be much better off.
Yeah, it's funny how all those people have MBAs, and have become quite wealthy and now can say that. So I think that Bob is making a really interesting point here, which is oftentimes when we think about entrepreneurship, we have really what's a myth in our heads, as we think that an entrepreneur is an 18-year-old Mark Zuckerberg or Bill Gates who has done something just extraordinary. But the reality is that the average age of a founding entrepreneur is 35. And so this idea of preparing yourself for a career, for a lifetime, we have so many entrepreneurs who go out into the world and engage in companies and say, wow, as I get my hands dirty in this industry, in this company, I start to see the limits and the opportunities therefore. And so what you see is a huge number of people who become entrepreneurs over their lifetime because they have the foundational skills that give them the capability to scan the landscape and act on their ideas in a significant way.
And you're seeing a good number of people actually come to a school with an idea and use the MBA experience as an incubator to launch your business, right?
So we have a program for entrepreneurship where you come in with an idea and you work through and you bring that to separate stage gates along the way.
Right. And some of these centers are university-wide, right? That help MBAs get matched up with computer scientists, engineers, public policy graduates, those from the humanities to launch companies.
Yeah, at Notre Dame we have what is called the IDEA Center, which is a university-wide center where MBAs are also very involved. So one way they're involved is perhaps they have an idea that they want to work on, and it's like an incubator environment. But the other thing where we involve MBAs is there are interdisciplinary teams working on a current project of undergraduate students, and they need someone with more experience. And so MBAs then serve as team leaders in that environment. So they get an actual, very hands-on experience leading a very interdisciplinary team over their two-year MBA.
Right. Now, one of the big issues facing U.S. business schools in particular right now, and one bill that I know you're passionate about, is the decline in international applicants. And while there may be few people in this room who are affected, on the live stream with people watching all over the world, there's come this view that the United States is no longer a welcoming place. All the anti-immigration talk and all the concerns about getting both a student visa and a work visa upon graduation have really scared off a lot of international applicants. What can you tell the international potential students out there about where we are and whether or not they should truly be concerned about these issues?
Yeah. So the reality is that the data are speaking, that we have seen a decline in applications coming from outside the U.S. And we also know from collecting data at GMAC that what's behind that is reasonably clear, which is concerns about the opportunity to work post-graduation, and so thinking about your visa status after your student visa, and also concerns about, am I going to be welcome in this country? And so my feeling is that we need to speak out to, first of all, make it very clear that we're in a position right now where in this country we need as much talent as we can possibly get, and that we run the risk of kind of negative long-term economic consequences if we don't recognize that we have lots of talent in this country, but there's lots of talent around the world that is of the kind that is job creating. And so kind of the first message where I think we all need to sing in harmony is, if you look at the role of immigration, it's not the question of you have a fixed pie, and if you have immigrants, they take more of the pie away from the people in this country. If you have immigration, you create a bigger pie. And you look at evidence like the Fortune 500 companies, over half of the Fortune 500 companies are founded by immigrants. And so clearly that leads to massive job creation. And so we need to tell that story so that people don't feel threatened by the idea of people coming in from the outside. The other thing that I think we have to tell the story is this is a very welcoming environment. This is a place where you'll get unparalleled opportunities to really transform your life in ways that you will alter your trajectory for a lifetime. But during the time you're in the MBA program and beyond, this is a welcoming country. These are welcoming MBA programs, and it's very, very important that we make that statement loud and clear.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think the experience is exactly the one that Bill described, is once they're here, they are welcome. I mean, they feel very comfortable within our programs once they're here. They do have concerns about the job opportunities that they're going to have when they graduate. That issue, the visa issue, has to be solved in some way. These are exactly the people that we want here in this country. These are the people that are the job creators. They're the best talent that want to come here and have opportunities to utilize their own talents to be successful. These are, as I said, these are exactly the people we want here, and I'm hopeful. And we saw the same decline that every other MBA program saw with respect to applications from international students. I'm hopeful that Congress can do something relatively quickly, because if they don't, and this trend continues, that's going to dramatically affect not just MBA programs, but it will affect the U.S. and our competitiveness worldwide. These are the people we want to have here. Diversity is a good thing, and international students add to the diversity of our class. They add to the diversity of our culture and our business world, and it's really a shame what sort of has happened over the last few years. But I'm hopeful that this will be resolved in the next year or so if Congress can get its act together on that.
Great. Yeah.
Well, business is global, and it's vital that the MBA students themselves are also representing like that global nature of business. I'm an immigrant myself, a green card holder in this country. I'm very grateful for the opportunities that this country has afforded me. I'm originally from the Netherlands. And we've seen the same challenging trend. One way that we have been able to welcome, I think, more international students is through a new program we have. It's a joint MBA MSBA. So you get in 2 years, you get the MBA and you get a Master of Business Analytics. And that has a STEM designation, which gives students a 3-year work visa. And most of the students in the joint degree program are international.
Right.
So that's one way we kind of responded. We have that dual degree for multiple reasons, but one reason is to be more competitive in attracting foreign students.
Right. We're going to open this up to you for last 10 minutes or so. Does anyone out there have a question for anyone up here? Just raise your hand. Do we have a mic out there, Alyssa, or not? Okay. So anybody have a question? Or should we do, we should emulate. Okay, here we are. Tell me who you are and give us your question.
Sure. My name is Micah. I'm a project manager for a solar company in DC right now, and I'm looking at business schools in the next year and a half. My question is that the traditional focus of an MBA has generally been what's good for the shareholders is good for everybody. And with social and environmental concerns being a bigger focus in our world, how are MBAs responding or leading to these new factors?
Good questions. Let me repeat it for people on the live stream. So we have a would-be applicant who is saying that traditionally business schools have taught the shareholder model of management, which is that really only one stakeholder counts, is the shareholder, and no one else. And has that changed? And if it's changed, how has it changed? Yeah. Who wants to take that?
I'll take it.
Go for it.
I'll take it. Absolutely, that has changed. That is a model that was taken to an extreme in a way that has led to some of the excesses and examples of bad behavior, which unfortunately we still see today. And I think that increasingly what you're seeing, certainly in MBA programs, but also in the leaders that you see who are really the leaders that you look up to in the world today, they're making the case that it's okay to make money, and by the way, I think that's okay too. It would be a little bit shocking if the dean of a business school was not a believer in capitalism. I believe in capitalism, but I also believe in capitalism with a purpose. And that at the end of the day, if you can't look your employees in the eye, if you can't look your customers in the eye, if you can't look any of your stakeholders in the eye and say, we are making positive contributions to society, that we're making a difference in the world, then you're going to have real problems sustaining your long-run performance, because you're not going to have employees who want to work for you if the only way you keep score is in money. You're not going to have customers who will stick with you if they don't think you care about them and improving their lives. And over time, the shareholders will leave you as well, because you will become increasingly less profitable. And so you can't sustain your level of performance that you could perhaps in the short term squeeze out. And so people are coming up with all kinds of names for new forms of capitalism, and that's good that people are talking about in this way. But the fundamental thing is, it's not just about money. It is about bringing value to society, and I think that the leader of today and the leader of tomorrow has to live up to that standard.
And I think that still, MBA programs do suffer the stereotype of admitting profit maximizers with sharp elbows, when the truth is that people who go to business school are among the most eclectic, diverse people you'll ever meet, people you want to have at the dinner table in your home, and who you want to have as friends for a lifetime.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I want all of you to understand that business is a noble cause, okay? It is a noble cause. For me, I mean, when you listen to what Bill had to say, I agree with everything he said. But underlying what he said was that really for you to be benefiting your shareholders over the long run, you need to be socially responsible. You need to be responsible to the community. You need to be responsible to your employees. You need to be responsible to your customers, your suppliers. Because if you're not, in the long run, you will not be creating value for anybody, your shareholders or society or anyone. So for me, a lot of this has to do with whether we're short-term oriented or long-term oriented. I think we need to think more long-term as opposed to quarter-to-quarter results. Let's think longer-term about creating value for customers, for employees, and ultimately that will result in creating value for shareholders as well. So for me, these things, there isn't a sort of a dichotomy between creating value for the owners of the business and creating value and being a socially responsible corporation. For me, there is not a difference. That if we really take into account the long-run implications of our decision-making, and we want to make sure that we're able to attract the best and brightest employees, if we want to make sure that we're providing goods and services to customers so that our shareholders can benefit as well, we need to think longer term and not so focus so much on the short term. So as I said, for me, there isn't this strong dichotomy where shareholders win, everybody else loses. I think capitalism, done the right way, benefits everyone, benefits society as a whole.
And I like what you said about DQ, because the truth is the best business schools do admit decent people. You show a trace of arrogance, you show a trace of greed, you are not going to get admitted to any decent MBA program in this world today. Is there another question out there? Yeah, go ahead. Oh, yeah. No, go ahead. So the question was, can the deans anticipate significant growth in the area of healthcare for MBAs, and what kind of jobs might they hold in that field? Martin, you want to try that one?
At Notre Dame, a new initiative we have is what we call the science of wellness, recognizing that human wellness touches everything. Now, for MBAs in particular, what we have in mind is a more data-driven analysis of wellness. So basically connecting big data with the science of wellness with a certain analytical skill to connect it to.
Yeah. So about 20% of our MBA students are in the health sector management track. So they get a health sector management certificate. So it's a very big fraction of our student body. It's a big fraction because it's incredibly important in our economy. It's important in terms of the human condition. Health is so enormously important. And it's also becoming a factor in every company because it's becoming such a big expense for every company. And so everybody now is worrying about health, and you're seeing some interesting plays with kind of unexpected partners coming in and saying, can we do something different in this space? This is where I think the MBA education is so incredibly valuable, which is all of us in this room know with complete certainty that we have to disrupt the healthcare industry. We know that we have to lower cost. We know we have to increase access. We know we have to increase quality. And we know that we're far short of really making major changes in any of those dimensions. And so what's beautiful about the path for an MBA is that they understand, again, the opportunities to take an industry and really start to make changes in a way that you can drive the innovation that will bend the cost curve, that'll create opportunities for access, and so on. And it's going to be in a wide variety of ways. It may be data-driven. So we offer a health analytics program now because data is so very important as a way to affect change in this space. But you may go into biotech, you may go into pharma, you may go into devices, which means you need to be in a place where you're connected to an engineering school, where you're connected to a medical school, where you're connected to, possibly you're going in a policy route and connected to a policy school and so on. And so, but the opportunities are limitless because the scale is so big and the problems are so big. And where we can make the most difference is by operating in the spaces that are most difficult and most important to society.
All right, we've run out of time. I want to thank the three deans, Bob, Bill, and Martin. Thank you so much for coming and sharing your insights with us. I want to thank all of you for coming as well and listening and being an engaged audience. We are now going to have the meet and greet section downstairs. And I think this is a really incredible opportunity to really get a sense for how the programs differ from each other, not only on program offerings, but on culture and other important dimensions that may be key to your choice. So thanks for listening.
Thank you.